Hello everybody, welcome to today's video. Today we are going to talk about how to write killer essays for your MBA applications. Okay, well, I'm going to jump directly into the topic and we'll get started right away. Okay, the first thing that we are going to talk about is how do you research for your essays. Okay, what essays to write, how do you start with your entire essay writing, that kind of stuff. The second thing we are going to talk about is now what are the pieces that go into these essays. We'll talk about that a bit. Okay. Number three, we'll also talk about, what are some of the best practices that you need to adopt when writing these essays? Okay. Again, just a quick disclaimer. This is not the only way for you to write the best essays possible, but I'm giving you a structured approach of how you should be taking this entire essay writing journey forward. Okay. Let's get started with the first one, researching the essays. Okay. So before you actually write essays, you believe that, I need to know which schools I should be applying, right? Or I need to take my GMAT so that I know which schools I would be applying, correct? These two steps, of course, precede the entire essay writing activity. But I would say you can start in parallel way. The reason being that, if you look at the top 5 schools in the US, UK, anywhere else in the world, the top 5 schools or the top 10 schools, the top 20 schools, the wordings might be different, but the themes around which these essays are based are pretty straightforward, right? If not in one way or the other, they are asking about, what is your career goal? Right? What is your short-term career goal? What is your long-term career goal? Somebody is asking in 200 words, another school is asking in 500 words, right? One of the schools is asking, why do you want to join our MBA? The other school is asking, why this school, right? So these are all different variations of the same thing that you need to say to different schools. The only difference being, if you are writing about why this specific school, then the research is little different and you need to address it differently, right? But you take what are your career long-term and short-term goals, or you can start what are your major achievements as a leader, or what are your strengths and weaknesses. A lot of these questions are pretty common. I wouldn't say that, write for one school and just copy paste for all the other schools, even though a lot of students do that, but you need to at least customize it a bit based on the school. But the broad storylines can always be the same. Okay, so now you know, go ahead, look at the top 20 schools, top 30 schools, and you will start identifying the themes very, very, very soon. Go ahead, write down these themes in an Excel sheet. That's the first step that you need to do. And then moving forward, you need to start writing your personal, professional, extracurricular kind of stories into these buckets. Let me help you with that and let's jump into our white screen. Okay, just writing whatever we have discussed so far. We are talking about career goals. We are talking about leadership. Then we are talking about weaknesses and strengths and a few other themes. You can quickly figure out, what are these themes by just going through these top 15-20 essays. Now, what you need to do is that, across each one of these, you need to see if you have a professional story, or you have a personal story, or you have a extracurricular story to highlight these things. For example, you might say that, I led a team of 20 people and I helped them grow as a team. That could come under your leadership, right? Or you can say that, my strengths and weaknesses are defined by my personality. So you are talking about your personality side to talk about your weaknesses and strengths. And then you can say that, I've been doing 3 or 4 extracurriculars recently, which is to get in line my career goals with what I'm doing currently at work. Okay, so you can start filling out this table so that you cover all the aspects, right? Professional, personal, and also extracurricular. Also, just to mind, I'm telling that start with only draft versions of your story. You don't need to have absolutely best version of your story when you just get started. That's the job for the next part. But for now, you need to start with drafts, simple formats, right? The simple format that you can use is STAR, right? The star format. So each story should be written in a star format. When I say star format, what I mean is, what is the situation that you are going to talk about? What is the task or the challenge that you are facing in that specific situation? What were the actions that you are taking? And what was the result, recognition, right? Any accomplishments, whatever it is, go into the final part. Okay, so you now start creating these star format stories at a very crude level. Again, I'm specifying that, hey, these need not be perfect stories. These should be just your basic storylines. That's all. Okay. So now you start doing this for every single theme. You might have themes like, hey, what is cultural diversity for you? Right? This is not an exact question prompt, but I'm saying that, hey, some schools ask about cultural diversity. Or some schools talk about, hey, tell me 2 personal events which changed your life. So you need to make sure that you are covering the entire spectrum. So when you get those, you can start taking these notes and directly implementing those questions. Okay, so that is how you continue with these stories. Okay, so now we'll move into something more specific about these essays, and this is going to be gold. Okay, if you like these 3 or 4 things, please do subscribe or hit the like button. Now, the first one is be practical. I'll explain what that means. The second thing that you need to also make sure is like talk about yourself. The third thing is basic mistakes. The first thing, right? You can't say in your career goal essay that, hey, I want to lead India or I want to become the Prime Minister of India in the next 20 years, right? For that, why do you need a business school, right? You might probably be better off going to Masters in Public Policy or something along those lines, right? Well, if you are having some kind of government background and you say that, hey, I want to go back into the government again, right? That makes some story. But if you don't have any kind of background in the government, you cannot say that, hey, I want to become the Prime Minister of India. That's too stupid, right? The second thing in being practical is that, hey, you cannot be writing like simple things as well or the other end. Like, hey, you have to be ambitious. Reasonably ambitious is what I would say. Okay. When I say reasonably ambitious, well, you might say that I'm working for Facebook right now and I want to work for Microsoft in the next 2 years, right? If Facebook to Microsoft is such a same industry shift, then why do you need an MBA for that, right? So that is being like not at all ambitious on the other side of the spectrum, right? So you cannot be like overly ambitious or you cannot be completely unambitious with your essays. You have to be reasonable, right? And you have to tell them why this MBA program is going to help you. In my essay, what I did was I mentioned I worked for a data science company, then I worked in the data science field quite a bit. Now I want to become a global leader, and for that, understanding the business concepts will help me. I'll have data concepts from my pre-MBA work life, and I'll have business concepts from my MBA school, and that will be a deadly combination, right? And then I'll go on to work for these 3 or 4 specific companies, right? So being practical has to be being specific. The more specific you are, the more clear you are about your career goals, why you are writing these essays, that's the better thing for you. You cannot be on this end of the spectrum or you cannot be on this end of the spectrum. You have to be reasonably balanced. Okay, that's the first point. The second point is that a lot of people start off sharing with, hey, I was born in a poor family, my grandfather used to do that, my grandfather then bought the entire family to the city, my grandfather was working very hard, I got inspired by him, then my grandfather. So this story is all about your grandfather. This story is not about you. Well, you are applying for business school, your grandfather is not applying for business school, right? So write stories about yourself. Mention 1 or 2 sentences about, hey, how your grandfather had an impact on you, but the rest of the story should be about you. This is a very common mistake that a lot of folks do. Okay, that's number 2. The third basic mistake that people start worrying about is the word limit. Right? Don't worry about the word limits in the initial drafts of the essay. Word limits will come in later, right? You have your strong storyline, so to say, or the initial draft version of your story, and then the word limits can be taken care of later. Okay? These are some of the common mistakes. Now, another bonus tip which I would love to give you is also talk to the alums, right? See why they love these schools. For example, I've done a video and I'm linking it here saying why I love INSEAD, right? That's a very personal story and you can't get it by reading some blog, right? So talking to alums, or I'm linking a video, by watching these kind of videos, you get a real good grasp of what is happening in the business school. So you can talk about these things in your essays, okay? And finally, the most important thing, please use simple checks like Grammarly, right? Make sure that, hey, there is no copying of the content, right? Because all these guys do copy scraping, right? Which is, hey, did this version of the essay match with any previous versions of the essays that folks have written? Not necessarily just this particular individual, but anybody who has applied to that business school. So don't copy content. Whatever comes from you is the most real and the honest versions of these answers. Okay. Once you finish these drafts, then start going and applying these storylines into your essays, and then start having conversations with either a professional counselor, a consultant, or your friends and family. Right? If you have somebody who is already at a business school, that is the best thing that I could advise you. Go ahead and iterate these essays with these classmates or friends of yours. Or else you take professional support, but don't let somebody else write the first versions of your essay. And that is going to be the key, because all these professional counselors have been writing essays for students from a very long time, and it is not difficult for an admissions committee officer who has probably checked thousands of essays recognizing the style, right? So it is not a good habit, or I would never ever recommend you going and taking that first stab through somebody's help. You take the first stab and then it will help you continue to move forward. Alright guys, I hope these tips and tricks help you in getting started with writing good essays. If you want me to do deep dives into any one of these essay types, right? For example, career goals essay or leadership essay or any of these particular themes, please do mention in the comments box and I will try and make some specific videos around that. Okay. Thank you so much guys and look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. Take care. Bye.